Yo. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Rob's just running back over as we get this started. Woo-hoo! Welcome to day 2 of the 2023 Men's Norceca Continental Championships. We are in the thick of the dong days of Norceca.
The dong days of Norceca.
3-0 everywhere, up and down the schedule yesterday. Day 1 was a fantastic day for us. Got things going. We've had some good feedback on the stream so far, so pretty stoked on it. 3 games, all went 3 up, 3 down. Canada over Dominican Republic, Cuba over Puerto Rico, and then finally USA over Suriname, who we knew nothing about going into the day, and we're big fans of now.
Yes, we are. But let's start from the beginning. I think the schedule played out exactly how we expected. There's, like, we keep referencing the Dominican Republic coaches' own words that there's basically 3 tiers of team in this tournament.
I think that was wishful thinking.
It was. I think we are now on the same page that there are 2. There's the VNL teams, USA, Cuba, Canada, and then there's everybody else. And sure enough, the 3 VNL teams won yesterday, no problem. Let's start with your Maple Volleys.
Yep.
62-minute hour and shower over the Dominican Republic, who I got to be honest, I was disappointed in.
Yeah.
I was expecting a lot more.
So was I.
Yeah.
Even compared to like what we saw from Suriname later in the evening, I was very disappointed from the Dominican Republic. That's a team that, back in 2017, finished second at Norceca? Yeah, the one in Colorado Springs. They finished second. I mean, there was some Norceca tomfoolery, if you will, once the schedule and everything happened.
Funny how that works.
Basically, it happened so that Canada and the USA were on the semifinals together, and Dominican was on their own on the other side against like Mexico or something. I can't remember. But yeah, pretty disappointed overall by the Dominican Republic. And not only disappointed by the way they like the result, but just how they played.
Yeah,
like a lot of like missed swings, and they're looking for touches and kind of complaining about it. Like I know I've seen better volleyball from that team, from that team before,
and that's why we're disappointed.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
we have seen better volleyball from them before. Like Tapia, for example.
He was non-existent,
invisible.
He got subbed out after the first.
He did, and now their setting was also very, very bad. And like I think that the thing that summarizes it well for the DR is that they started set 2 receiving in rotation 1, and immediately gave up like a 10-1 run.
Yeah,
like
it was
instantly
bad.
off. Like immediately off the first serve, you chose to start in your worst reception rotation and immediately started down 10-1. Like why would you do that? I just didn't understand that.
I mean, luckily for the DR, they do have a day off today to recalibrate, get things together before they take on Mexico today. But Mexico's first match will be today, later on at 5 p.m. against Canada.
Speaking of Canada,
we rolled. We rolled. As to be expected, we saw quite a bit of the lineup. I mean, we saw Eric Lepke come in halfway through the second. We saw Jordan Snitzer come in as well at the end of the second and play in the third. We even saw Sam Cooper as well out there. So, Samuel Vuo getting some different guys in. I mean, it's not a good test and indication of where they're at in everything. But I like how they took care of business. They were very efficient. Only 1 error on the day for the team, and yeah, they just got it done. Got the dub, and let's keep it moving to the next one.
Yeah, on to the next one. Yeah, there's really not that much to talk about like the statistics or the play style or anything. Yeah, we've got this lower third with our names on it, trying to put ourselves in the right spot on camera here. Yeah, I mean Canada looked great. They looked like the better team. They played very clean, which is a decent theme for all the teams that won yesterday. Maybe not quite so Cuba, but the U.S. and Canada yesterday played super duper clean.
Yeah,
really efficient. They served the ball well enough. Canada in particular, I thought, served the ball really well. They put DR under a lot of pressure and then set up good disciplined triple blocks against it. I thought Luke Hurst had a good game, who we talked to on the broadcast yesterday. And this was never really in doubt. It never should have been in doubt, and I think we can kind of move on.
Absolutely.
Like we don't need to worship Canada for beating up on the Dominican Republic. That's what should happen.
Yeah. At this point, you're just regurgitating my words. Moving forward to game number 2, Cuba versus Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico brought a bit of a younger team. Now, we did give Mexico a bit of flack for having brought a younger team as well. But I think it's different circumstances, whereas the Mexicans, they brought the younger team, but some of their main guys who would still be considered young aren't here. Puerto Rico, they've just done a complete revamp of that roster. They're going very young, and I quite like some of the younger guys that they have. Elias, Ellis, Rodriguez. He's not that young. I think we said he's 27, but it's the first time I'm really getting to see him.
Yeah, I guess he was playing beach before.
Yeah, I checked his BVB info. He's played a little bit, mainly mostly in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
But like a few FIVBs and Norceca's here and there. But quite like with guys like Encarnacion and Josue Cruz.
Josue Rivera.
Yeah, Rivera.
Okay.
So guys who used to play for the indoor national team for this team.
Yeah.
So we're big fans of them. Overall, Puerto Rico looked good at first, but then Cuba, just being Cuba, overtook the match about halfway through the first.
Right. Yeah. Puerto Rico looked really young, and
really
sometimes
young,
youth is fun because there's potential. There's some unknown about it. It's always exciting. There's nowhere to go but up with a team like that they've brought. And sometimes the youth showed, like our boy Ellis on the right side being 19. You kept talking about how early he was to the ball.
So early.
Which he absolutely was. But then every so often he would rip one. Like Elias in the middle, I thought had a pretty good game.
Yeah.
They were very weak offensively on the outside.
Yeah.
Even Cliston Lawrence,
he was a non-factor.
He was a non-factor.
And that to me is the biggest issue.
Right.
With all of that. But it's also one of the reasons why I'm like, let's maybe keep an eye out on Puerto Rico, because if Cliston Lawrence can get going on the left side as he was and as dominant as he was on the right, especially at last year's Pan Am Cup, that's where we're going to see them getting really legitimate. And it doesn't seem like he's having a good time over there, just based off of body language,
is not great.
how he's interacting with his teammates. He's been subbed out and stuff like that. My advice to him: suck it up, figure it out, and play over there, because you have the potential to be a world-class outside. You have the potential to play in Switzerland as an opposite.
That's a fantastic summary, and I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
So how about Cuba? We saw really that was Cuba's A lineup yesterday.
Cuba.
Yeah, they are. The setting was still not good, but I thought both middles were good. It was really good to see Romy Alonso. I miss watching him.
He had like 5 blocks in the match, and just his presence out there, the way he talks, the way he moves, the way he closes the block, his hand movement on the block is really world class. Like, you can tell he's been spending spent the year in Piacenza's gym, working alongside Simone, working with some of the best, playing in the best league of the world, because he's right there. I mean, he was one of the best middle blockers in France when he played for Chaumont, and it's really continued. So I think that's a huge addition to that roster, especially like it's really a step up from the VNL.
Definitely.
And him and Concepcion is a good pairing, and that's what it was before Simone came into the picture. So yeah, I really liked seeing him out there. But the rest of Cuba's Cuba. We're gonna see, like we saw a few new faces in there, and like we'll follow them as the tournament goes on. We'll see how it's gonna be done.
The biggest difference is for Cuba, the coach, and
we saw a double sub yesterday.
We did, and we were talking to, or I was talking to Ronnie Cuban Spike, just like reading what he was talking about in the Discord, that like under Vives, old Cuba would have never even attempted a double sub. Like old Cuba was the federation that sent the A team in the middle of VNL to play the Central American, like Caribbean tournament in in El Salvador, in the middle of 2 weeks of VNL, and played the starters the entire time. New Cuba, which is what we're seeing here behind us, what we're about to see versus Suriname, Ronnie says he expects them to actually play the bench against Suriname, which is exactly what you should do.
You should do.
That's what you should do.
I want to learn about some more. I want to see Miguel Gutierrez out there.
Me too.
We'll see. I know he was
Suarez and Romero and the one really young middle that they brought, and like Gorget, the other libero, and like throw those guys out there. How else are they ever going to get better if you bring them to tournaments but never play them, especially against a team like Suriname who they're about to play? So it sounds like that. Like, that's the thing I'm most interested in about Cuba, is how are they attacking this tournament from the top?
Yeah.
And there's already improvement being seen there. Shout out to Luke Reynolds, who's wearing Cuba gear, sitting behind them on the bench, helping them with what were you saying, like video and scouting sort of?
Yeah, he said he was kind of like the Wizard of Oz behind the scenes, helping out with video and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, we'll have to see what Cuba could win this tournament, and they could also finish 5th.
Sure.
Right? Like, they could legitimately like lose in the quarterfinal match on Friday night potentially, just because they don't feel like playing that day. So
that's Cuba. Cuba's Cuba.
Speaking of a team that definitely was feeling like playing yesterday, that was the United States of America taking on Suriname. And it was funny, we talked to Coach Spra beforehand. He's like, I have no video. We've got no video. And you could tell, because that team, what did they go for? 41 for 52 on the night?
The U.S.
I think that was the number. They were insanely efficient. And don't get us wrong, like it was a 3-dong and a heavy 3-dong. But
it was like 58 minutes.
Yeah, it was. It was under an hour. It was an hour in shower. And as you can see behind us on the scoreboards, it says USA 25, Suriname 10. But yeah,
45 for 57 last
45
night.
for
2
57.
errors.
Okay.
Like that's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
Plus 4 blocks, 7 aces.
But I would like as good as the USA looked. The USA is the USA, and that was their bench, and they still took care of business. I'm more excited about Suriname.
Me too.
I'm more excited about that team coming here, and their coach at the beginning of the tournament was like, "We want to win a set or two, bro." I think they're in it to get wins.
I think so too. Well, when it comes to like the classification stage, like there's a great chance that they get 4th in their group. They're gonna play Cuba today. They're going to lose. They're gonna play Puerto Rico tomorrow. I would probably pick them to lose that as well. But then once they play like the classification games on Saturday and maybe Sunday, those will be competitive games, and Suriname legitimately has a chance to win. Like seriously, they have like Kevin Sporkslade, their captain, is like he's a player.
He's a player,
like, actually a player.
The fact that he hasn't played in Europe surprises me.
Me too. Or like maybe like Argentina or a low-level Brazilian team or something like that.
Absolutely,
easily that good.
Yeah, was very impressed by. I was just very impressed by them overall as a team. Even Breinberg on the right side had a few nice shots. Mahabali, the setter. Mahabali, the setter. A little bit bigger than most guys out here, but he's got butter hands and sets a good offense. So the other guy that they brought in after him wasn't as polished. Like they don't have the depth for sure, but the main guys out there look really good and was pleasantly surprised. And we'll definitely get one of the Surinese, not Surinese. I was saying that wrong yesterday, getting roasted in the chat. We'll definitely get one of the Surinese players after the match today.
We love that. Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, I'm excited about that team. They really are a pleasant surprise. I was expecting them to be a total doormat, and they're not. Like they will play competitive volleyball. Just how consistent can they be in not giving points away for free? They'll definitely need to clean it up a little bit, minimize unforced errors as best they can. And honestly, yesterday I was actually pleasantly surprised by their reception. Yes. They passed the ball decently well against a good serving American team, but against Cuba, that is a very difficult matchup.
But how many we could have the Cuba that we saw at VNL too, where they're putting 30 serves into the net.
That is also possible. I mean,
so
Cuba's Cuba,
and that's the thing. So you're not wrong. The way I want to summarize Suriname is that their volleyball skills are very good.
Yeah.
In general, they just don't necessarily have the physicality nor the experience to play with the VNL teams.
Yep, that's well said. Yeah, their volleyball skills are way better than either of us thought. There. Yeah,
for sure.
So
way better than either of us too.
Yeah, 100%. So today, and what time is it? It's 1:30. We've got an hour and a half until we see Cuba versus Suriname behind us. Then Canada versus Mexico, the debut of Mexico, and then the United States versus Puerto Rico. So the only team we haven't seen yet is Mexico. We know we have Pedro Rangel, who you love, their setter.
Boy.
We do not have Diego Gonzalez, who is their superstar opposite that burst onto the scene at last year's World Championship. I mean, Cuba versus Suriname is easy enough to preview. Even if Cuba plays the bench, I would still expect that to be a 3-0. I would. How about you?
I'm going to go on a limb and say a 3-1.
Hey,
because I think they fall asleep for a set. And they start yelling at each other.
Okay. Well, yeah, let's give Suriname a set. I would love to see it.
Yeah, me too.
Canada versus Mexico, I think that's an easy 3-0, like given the team that Mexico brought. But I saw Mexico practicing on Monday just a little bit, and they're a typical Mexican team where they're very small. Mm-hmm. They're very good at first contact.
Yep.
They have some arms. They try and play with speed.
Like Lopez is still here, and Lopez is one of their main guys on the outside, and he's definitely a guy to watch out for.
He was the only guy on Monday at practice. I was like, okay, this guy can score in this tournament. Everybody else, probably not so much.
Yeah, so much. So we'll have to see him. I really need to see them. You got a little fly in there in your face there.
Yeah.
I really need to see them in person. I really think Lopez is going to be the guy to run the offense, but who knows? Maybe someone else will pop up and surprise us.
Can they take a set from Canada, though? I don't think so.
The only time I've ever seen Mexico legitimately take a set for us was the first time I ever commentated international ball at the 2011 Pan Am Cup, and Pedro Rangel went on a 10-0 service run to start the match. Yeah, and that was a big one because it was the quarterfinals, and essentially whoever won that game went into the pot for World League qualifying from the Western Hemisphere, because that's how it was determined at the time, and it was basically the highest team not qualified. And at the time, Puerto Rico was in World League, USA was there, Brazil was there, and Argentina
Cuba
was there.
Probably there.
Yeah, Cuba was there, but they weren't at that Pan Am tournament. So, yeah, it was like that. That was a bit of a nail-biting first set. That was back in the beginning of like Gord Perrin was a baby. Gavin Schmidt was just coming into his own. It was time ago. But
now we have a new generation of Canadians that can hopefully not drop a set to Mexico.
Hopefully.
I really like Canada. I'm curious to see if and when Samuel Vuo uses the bench and just how his strategy goes with that, because he brought a lot of players that are very capable, but like what combinations of guys
every athlete on that our roster is capable.
I think you've got 21 bodies, maybe like 20, like, because they brought 14. I'd say you've probably got 20 capable bodies in that gym.
Oh yeah, absolutely. With the B team as well too. Like
3 more outsides, 2 more middles easily. Yeah. Like Keterakis is the third setter. Like there's plenty of talent in the Canadian gym that could play in a tournament like this. So I'm curious to see how Samuel Vuo uses it.
I think the one guy I really want to see is Jordan Canham, but I'm doubtful we're going to see him that much. Mostly because if Arthur Schwartz was a regular starting opposite, we would see Canham more, but Arthur Schwartz isn't. And he hasn't played that many games on the opposite. He hasn't started that many games on the opposite. So for me, he's maybe the one guy we just keep in there, and it's just like you need the reps, you need the space.
This is your tournament. Just go.
Absolutely.
I completely agree that if it were, even if it were Ryan Slater or if it were like Gavin Schmidt or someone like that who's been playing the position for a decade or even a couple years, then you would give Canham a match, but I probably would see him in a 6-2 at most, just because at this point
we've seen the double sub.
We did.
We'll see him in the double sub.
But at this point for Arthur Schwartz, like every rep is really, really positive for him.
100%, right. So he might be the only guy, but I expect to see Lepke start this match and see Nick Hogue subbed in halfway through. That's my.
I thought Eric looked really good yesterday.
I thought he looked really good too,
really
and
good.
That's like a really good breath of relief.
Yeah,
bring in some reinforcements.
You need that. Kid.
Yeah, the only thing that I'd love to have is our good old buddy Barncat, but he's been rehabbing an injury all summer.
Shout out Riley Barnes.
Yeah, he'll be the captain for Tokain this year. So
cool.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Good to see him.
So,
but if you had Barnes in there too, and you had those 4, that's when things start getting like okay, but not quite there yet.
Not yet, but I like Canada 3 over Mexico.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the United States versus Puerto Rico, I think that's a 3-0 as well. I think there's a very good chance this might be another 9-set day.
And this is one where we're going to see the starters, because you don't want to bring out the starters having not played against Cuba tomorrow.
Correct.
So you bring the starters out today.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And Puerto Rico will have to deal with Matt Anderson and Micah Christensen and Aaron Russell in the lot.
I think you're probably right, because I think it's reasonable enough to expect them to play
at least to start.
Definitely, yeah. That's exactly the point.
For a set and a half.
If it's reasonable to ask them to play 2 matches in 2 days, not 3 matches in 3 days.
No.
So that's why those guys didn't play yesterday. But I agree with you. I expect to see the guys start today against Puerto Rico and start tomorrow against Cuba. And if that takes care of business, then in that case we'd have Friday off, and we'd be set to go to play those guys for 2 matches on the weekend. So I think that's the plan. Definitely the starters for a set, maybe 2 sets, and then we'll see what happens.
I mean, the reality is that if everything goes according to the way it should, the way we see it, then USA is going to be playing like Puerto Rico or Mexico in the semifinals.
Correct.
Which is another case where you can just run the roster.
Yeah, and like the US's bench, like we saw last night, like we called them the bench, but that bench is so good. That bench could win this tournament. Like it could. I'm not saying that it would, but it could.
Yeah, it could.
Like Ma'a, Haynes, like Jeschke, the middles.
I would feel a lot better, much better about our prospects in that scenario
against Garrett and Jake Haynes instead of Matt Anderson and Aaron Russell.
I mean, it would still be maybe a bit of a toss-up.
Yeah.
Like I would not give it to us directly or Cuba directly, but you're not wrong. That team could win the tournament.
So the U.S. is sick. I expect us to win 3-0 this evening, but I'm looking forward to tomorrow already. Canada will have the day off. We'll get 2 pretty competitive matches. We'll have Suriname versus Puerto Rico tomorrow.
That one's gonna be fun, I think.
And
that one's
then
gonna be fun.
Dominican versus Mexico.
Who knows?
All teams that are on the same playing field. And then tomorrow night, USA versus Cuba. That'll be the first match.
The first match. Yeah.
Even though we 3-donged them back in Anaheim, Cuba, we saw Cuba beat Brazil. We've seen Cuba's peak. So I think we're gonna have to wait till tomorrow to see to see the intensity in this place jump up a little bit. But I wouldn't be surprised if today was the dong days of Norceca once again.
Yeah, the dong days of Norceca are usually the first two days of the tournament where it's just 3 up, 3 down, all around. And look at that.
Ooh,
We're starting to have some faith now, and this tournament's starting up a little bit. That was a bad little pun. Don't worry. Yeah, I was just about to ask. Let's check out some comments.
Yeah. Hope there's more people watching today. In person, I agree. I want to see more Sam Cooper. I agree.
Yeah.
I think there's a great chance we could see him. Low key, want to see you guys spike on the court.
I don't know about us hitting straight up, but I do think that we're gonna rip a game of sport court at some point.
Short court, that would be very fun.
Sorry, yes, short court on the sport court, full length though, right? Full length 1-on-1, 3 touch, like side to side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll set that up for later in the week.
Yeah. We'll film that too.
I'll take a swing right now if there's a ball handy, but it would probably hurt me and it would not look good on camera. So maybe that's not the best idea.
I was a setter, so.
All right, people. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the games. Suriname versus Cuba in about an hour and a half, 3 p.m. local, and the match will be right here on the Volleyball Source YouTube. So you're in the right place.
And Michael's not happy with our setup right now. You can see the pain on his face.
Our producer Michael just walked in.
He's like, I've got thousands of dollars of cameras around here, and you guys are using this little dinky thing.
We are using this little dinky thing, and it works just fine. Yep. All right, people. Thanks for watching.
Working and twerking. Check us out. See you guys later. Peace.
See you for match 1.
It's match 4. Get your stuff ready.